Hey guys, how you doing again? We're back on another project. It's been raining here in Michigan because April showers bring some May flowers, of course. And I noticed that in particular, again, the nagging issue about the sunroof came up, that it was leaking. But also, about a week or two ago, I took the car on the highways doing 75, and I noticed something. Part of the sunroof wasn't actually latched down, so it was flying up a little bit, and air was coming in. It was a little unsettling. I just didn't like the fact that it wasn't latched down. It was latched down on this side, but the other side it wasn't necessarily latched down. So that caused an issue because, of course, you want to drive on the highway, you want to go to various events and do things. So I had to go ahead, and I couldn't take it anymore, go ahead and try to fix the mechanisms. So I got a video for you guys. We're going to go ahead and get started, and I'm going to show you exactly what's going on with the car. So as you can see here, when you look, it's uneven, meaning one of the latches is higher than the other latch. It's really not good. And I'm showing on the inside of the car, opening and closing it. You see how one side isn't even attached in properly. So, tools that you will need for this project. I'll go through them really quickly. You're going to need, in case you are actually manually using the sunroof or actually manually opening and closing it, what you'll actually need is a 7mm. You may not be able to see that because of the flash. 7mm. However, if that's stripped for some reason, you can always use a pair of vice grips there, or a flathead screwdriver, and you can actually put the vice grips on it and turn that manual piece. You will also need a 8mm. Don't worry about that part. That's just an old one. This is just an old piece, and I don't have all my tools at my home garage here, which I did this at. You need an 8mm. Also, because when you're actually taking or disassembling, you'll see it in the video, some of the actual latches, you'll need that. You'll need a 4mm Allen wrench. You actually, yes, you do have two different Allen wrenches. I can't believe it. But on the same black latch, the one that is actually closest to the top, that's a 4mm Allen. The other two and all the other Allens are going to be a 5mm Allen. And then if you're using one of these like myself instead of an actual T, which gives you a grip, I showed you in the video, but I actually use this as an extension to help turn from that angle right there. If you don't have the hand power, you also need a Phillips head. And then you'll actually use black tape. Oh, I did at least, black tape, and of course something to cut the black tape with. Because when you have those two bars sitting on each way to help them to seat down properly in the plastic piece, you can kind of just have a mock-up where it stays in place with the tape. All right, let's get started. Okay, so here we have how you actually manually operate the sunroof. I'm doing it with the 7mm ratchet. This is where you can also use a vice grips if it is stripped, or a flathead screwdriver, although the flathead screwdriver is not a good option. Alright, and so here I'm now showing you removing the actual top leather piece here to pull this down. You want to be very gentle with this and try to preserve as much as possible for reinstall. You can see there's a little bit of glue there. Okay, now I'm showing you, after I got it all removed, basically how that went. I was able to preserve most of it without any rips. That's going to be great for when I reinstall it. It'll look like it used to look beforehand. And now I'm giving you an image of just showing you I'm unscrewing the top plastic piece that will expose that latch. And I'm also showing you from behind, because yes, you have to remove some from behind, the latch on the back side, because there's one more screw you have to get to, and it's right there. So just want to locate that one, don't break anything that's plastic, and just unscrew that one also from the back side. Alright, and so now I'm taking that 5mm Allen wrench, and I'm actually turning it the backyard way without a T. And now I'm actually in the middle part where the gears actually sit, where everything comes together, and I'm loosening those bolts. And now you can see here there's one more piece to actually remove this latch. That's the 4mm there on one side, and you want to use the 8mm on the other side to break the nut there to open that. And that now makes it possible to pull this off, which also opens up the clearance for this bar, which you need to move out of the way so you can expose the middle gear and actually pull it down. So as you can see there, I'm moving that over and exposing it, and I'm going to get out the car and show you the screws on the top. See those 4 screws? That's what opens it up. And with that open, now you can see the gear exposed. Now you can detach it, and you can take it out and take a look at it. So now I have it at the back of the car, and I'm showing you one side that's all the way in. You see that, where it's all the way in, and then you come to the other side. Well, I'm actually showing you the middle, and then there's the other side where you have the part that's out, where there were some issues. That's why it was uneven on one side and on the other. See that? See that difference? Yep. And so now I'm going to show you, I'm just pushing this back in. Now keep in mind, you may have to actually take that middle gear out and adjust it a little bit better, make sure it's seated in properly. You'll want to make sure that's done, and then you can tape everything together at that point, the 2 bars together, to keep them kind of together more so the gears all stay in place. But yet now they're all evened out and ready for a reinstall. Yep. Alright, and so now I just showing you after I've put the gear back to the motor part, and now I'm just making sure the screws are all tight. And now I'm actually putting the 5mm Allen bolts back in. Be very careful with these. It's plastic, old plastic. You can really break those all apart if you're not careful with what you're doing. You don't have to over tighten them, just so that it's up there secure, but not over tight. And then I'm just showing you now that I've put back in the Phillips head screws to cover the plastic peaks for the latch. And then here's the end result with the liner back in. I was able to preserve it. I used a little bit of glue to help out because I noticed there was glue taking it apart. And now you look, see that latch? It's in its right locked position now. See that? That one was on the one side and the other side was detached altogether, but now it's latched also. It's locked in locked position, so great. Alright guys, we're all done. The project's complete. As you can see, the headliner is sitting down properly now. You saw it in the video before, or the image before, where you saw both of those latches sitting there properly in their place in the lock position. So we're good to go. I'm not going to really use this unit that much because, number one, the plastics, that clear plastic piece, you don't want to screw too hard on it. You want to be real nice and gentle with it because it's going to break apart. It's very old. And so I broke one of those in particular, and I'm just worried about the seating of it if I start using it over and over again, so I'm going to leave it alone. Number two, when you're doing your headliner, you're taking it off, take your time. Take your time, believe me, because I didn't feel like replacing my headliner and starting a whole nother project, even though that is something that I will be doing in the future. I wanted to preserve it. And I also used a bit of glue because I noticed when I was taking it down that there was some glue there to put everything back together and to seal it properly. So now I can take this thing on the highway, I can drive 75 miles per hour. I don't have to feel like this lifting up and the leak going on. Again, this was just something that we can do. It's going to take a few hours. My few hours was involved in basically getting that mechanism, not the mechanism, but the gears to actually sit down properly and stay there while I fasten the top on that white piece. Those gears, they have to be seated properly in order to actuate both ways, and then for the top gear, that bigger round gear, to actually feed in from the motor. So that took some time just getting it figured out, getting everything seated. If it doesn't feel right, remember when you're screwing stuff back together, it doesn't feel right, you know what, take it back out, look at it, make sure you're not going on an offset, you're not going to strip everything, and sometimes put a little penetrating grease on it or something like that to help the process when you're putting everything back together. So again, I hope you enjoyed and hope this helps. Take care, guys.